Hello. Good evening. Welcome to Livestream. If this is the first time you watch me, then you may feel like this is a strange way to speak. It is. I'm being Wally. Being a Wally. Shutting down things as well. Good evening. For those people who are wondering what the word Wally is, it's not Willy. It's Wally. Wally. Let's look up what the definition of Wally is. Wally. I think I might be a Wally. Okay, Google. Yes, I agree to give you my life. Definition. Wally. A silly or inept person. I must have looked like a total Wally. Oh, that sometimes stops my hello, my audio. No. So a silly or inept person. So I'm not a Willy, I'm a Wally. If I were Willy, I would be long and thin with a mushroom head, but I'm not. So, good evening and welcome to the 6 o'clock news. I hope you're all well in your self-isolation units. I am doing well here. Well, we shall begin. Okay, so if this is the first time you've ever seen me live, I shall explain to you how it works. The way it works is that you can write and phone me on Skype. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. You'll find the info in the box below. And you can either write a question or you can call me. But if you're going to call me, please put, rather than calling me, because we're not in the same time, I'm normally 30 seconds ahead of you, can you put please call me when you're ready? Because otherwise when you call me in the middle of, when you think that I've gone into silence or when you think I finished a question, it's actually a different time and you'll interrupt me speaking to someone. It's not, like what you're seeing now is 30 seconds in my past. Yes. And you need a headset if you're going to call in, and you need a microphone and you need good internet connection, because otherwise it's not very nice for other people listening. You kind of get these weird vibrations and hello, Lisa. If you don't have good internet connection, it's going to be a bit annoying for the rest of the audience. Not that annoying isn't good. Annoying can be good, exactly what the other person needs, but you know. We're trying to go for a high standard here. Yes. If you want to come to one of my events, the next event I'm doing it's in Spain, but actually I'm not taking any bookings at the moment because who knows what's going to happen. It's the end of May, but we don't know if that's going to happen. Could do, but also strong chance it won't. And if you're booked on, I just leave it for the moment because I know most people have booked their flights and just see what happens. What else? Yeah, I do these talks every Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. I did used to do them Sunday and Wednesday, but I currently am doing them less now. Well, I finished writing my book about Andrew, the cat that lived in a cult. It's Andrew, the cat that lived in a cult. That's the name of the book. So that's it. At the beginning of the talk, I always like to do a silent sitting. So you can join me in the silent sitting. And I give meditation practice, but just know that the practice is a description of what can happen rather than a prescription of what you should do, because who would be the person doing it? I don't ask you to do the meditation because I believe it would bring you further to enlightenment, because again, who would be the person that becomes enlightened? Who? I simply give it as a way to relax the person. Often the person is really tense and always doing things and getting and achieving, and meditation can be super relaxing. It also can at first be agitating for the body and you feel really uncomfortable, but in the long run that will turn into a very beneficial process. And the reason that you're uncomfortable is because you're not used to just sitting. So the processes that I give of meditation, I nearly forgot that I went to meditation, is one, the mindfulness of breathing. I learned this from the Buddhists. And basically, you want to count your in-breath. So every time you breathe in, you count 1. And then the next time you breathe in, you count 2. And the next time, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That didn't work, did it? So you want to count up to 10, and then when you get to number 10, come back to 0 again. So on the in-breath, 1, 2, and just feel the breath go all the way into your body, and then when you get to number 10, come back to 0 again. And the other practice that I give, if you're not so into that one, is then moving your attention into I am. Maybe you don't know what I am is at the moment, maybe that's still hiding from you, but basically it means presence. A lot of other teachers say bring your attention back to consciousness, but for me, I always did the I am practice, so I'm just being genuine to this process. I studied with Roger Castillo and Ramesh Balsekar, who studied with Nisargadatta Maharaj, and it was putting the attention in I am. And I am, to me, is this presence, this which is, this sense of being prior to you being someone. It's I am, this is. Okay, and then the third option is just sitting there and doing nothing, just letting the mind think and do whatever it wants. Okay, goodbye. If I was in the Buddhist center, it would be ding, 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 ding. Hello. Okay, so what was the title of the talk? What does your story say about you? I have slightly sore eyes at the moment. Yeah, I was ill last week, and one of the really bizarre side effects is sore eyes. And so if I'm blinking a lot, doing weird things with my eyes, it's because they're a little sore. Okay, let's get to the talk. So your assumption is that you are existing inside your body and that you're looking at me now, that you as somebody are looking at me. And then you have this feeling of a story, and then the story that's actually running in your mind. So it's not only like a mental story, an image that you can tell yourself and you can think about. It's also this feeling of you. And everybody, and that feeling of you might change throughout the day, and everybody has a particular feeling of them. Like when I studied drama, and when I was younger I was into drama a lot, and I love storytelling, and we used to do these like exercises of holding our body in different ways. So we would do like, I don't know if you can see me, I have to bring up the camera to see what you guys can see. So you'd have like the testosterone guy, like the cowboy guy, and that person would like, I'm not sure if I can do this. Yeah. So the testosterone guy would be all hips. So it'd be like, it would be moving by hips. So it'd be like you can't really see maybe. You know, like this is just caricature, but I don't know if you can see me very well. I can't go far enough back. Like it would be all hips, like, you know, the guys that are all like, they're all like moving by the hips, and that would be like more a testosterone guy, and more like the cowboy guy that's got his guns and he's like doom 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 doom. And then you've got like maybe you've got like maybe I have to kneel to do it, like a really like timid, insecure person, and they might be all like, this is just caricature, like over the top caricature. They'd all be like take very little steps, and their shoulders are hunched in. It's not like real life, it's like a dramatization, but it's true of people, but just in milder forms. Like somebody that's insecure will hold their body more like that and might have quite a high or low voice or husky voice, like hello. And then you've got somebody that's like maybe like a sexual woman that's like maybe like really flirtatious, and maybe she's all like boobs and moving the chest like that type. And then you've got maybe what else have you got? The lover, they used to call it, like the one that's always like in love and romantic, like a fantasy person that's always maybe they're really light on their toes, like very dreamy. I know you can't see much, like dreamy, like where people can see me out of the window. I'm not in my place in France where there's where the neighbours can't see me and I'm just doing all these things. Yeah, but somebody's sitting there, just pull the curtain a little bit. Yeah. And then you maybe got like the nosy person, so somebody that's always like sticking their nose in, and maybe they're more lead with their nose and they're judgmental. And you've got these caricatures anyway that that we have in humanity. I don't know if you could have seen much from that, like my body. And this is like one of the great things about studying theatre or drama, like learning about the human body and learning about the way in which we're communicating. And so all of us have this story inside that we tell of ourselves, and then we kind of feel it in our body, and we're communicating it a lot of the time. Like where I am at the moment, I'm near the beach and I cycle along the beach with Khaleesi most days, and you get so many different personality types. And it's so easy for me to read their body of what's going on with them and the story they're telling themselves. And when they're not aware someone's watching, then it begins to come out. Like maybe you've got the grumpy person that's like always snappy and on edge. And it's not that you're always this fixed story, but it's like a habit that your mind is telling again, and then your body is projecting. So maybe you feel very victimized by life and you're always telling the story that other people are bad and other people are assholes. You're going to be carrying that in your voice, in your body. Maybe like that victim story is like creates someone that's very judgmental. So you're always a bit more of a and it's like a feeling in your body of what you create about yourself, of who you believe yourself to be, and then your consciousness, your essence, that which is always there in your sense of being, the I am, but kind of becomes locked into that personality structure, even though it isn't really. Consciousness is always free and always everywhere, and the same with your beingness, with your sense of I am. The I am becomes I am Rupert, I am good, I am better than, I deserve more, I am entitled, they shouldn't do that, why do they do that to me? And it kind of becomes like locked in, that you begin to feel like you're that character which you're always perpetually telling yourself about, and then your body is feeling it, your body is emanating that, and you believe that to be who you are. Whereas that isn't who you are. When you believe that's who you are, you're bound to this world of suffering. And what I define suffering as is seeking, and it's seeking to maintain pleasure and seeking to avoid pain. So that when you believe that you are an entity, you always feel cut off from your essence. You feel cut off from that expansive sense of who you are, that free sense that's never holding on to anything, that's always letting everything pass through itself, that's not a thing and yet all things, that absolute compassion of who you are. And you feel cut off from that. And unconsciously, it's not a conscious thing, you're always seeking to regain that in pleasure, in the next thing, in the house, in the person, in the lover, in the kids, in the holidays, in the things you do, in your activities. And so maybe now, like in Europe and in most of the world, there's a lot of isolation going on. Maybe you can feel that. You can feel how your mind is restricted from a lot of your pleasures that it normally gets, and it doesn't know what to do. It's looking for that. And that to me is suffering. That to me is this dependence on the outcome of life, and the forgetting that there is a freedom that is innate in all things. So that's forgotten. So when you're in isolation or when you don't get your pleasures, you feel this suffering sense because you feel like you can't arrive at your freedom. Again, it's not conscious. It's like if you don't get it, you haven't got the opportunity of getting home, of getting free, of making it, of these dreams that one day you'll arrive and you'll make it. And you never needed that. That's an addiction that actually makes your life worse. It makes you more unhappy. The freedom is innately here. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful. It's that consciousness. It's that which is always here. This consciousness, this empty looking, and this sense of being. And they're not actually separate. I separate them out. It's this wholeness, this energy, this no-thingness and everything. But just consciousness in the sense of I am is the way that it's traditionally taught, and it's actually a really great way to teach it, because you can see that, or there can be a seeing on the human level, which can be super relaxing for the human, that there is something that's conscious of the human, and there's this sense of being that's always there, that never changes. And so knowing that on the human level can relax the human, which is really good. And the more the person relaxes, the more that this can be sensed. It's not the person that actually senses it, but when you're really suffering, you're really contracted, and you're really focused on your pleasures and pains, you can't begin to sense the wonder and the mystery of everything, because you're so focused on yourself. You, and what you're getting. So often what happens in non-duality is a lot of the teaching is about relaxing that person. And then another mystery, which is all grace, can take over. And when I say it's all grace, it's not down to you, because it's beyond you. It seems to, at first, when you get into this process, it seems that it's you relaxing yourself and you learning all of this. But then at some point, something else takes over. They call it stream entrance in Buddhism. That you begin to remember something that's beyond you. So there is a freedom right now. So what is it that's looking? It's not that story that I just described. It's not that feeling of you as a character. It's this sense of beingness and this empty looking, this consciousness, which is conscious of everything. Like at the moment, you're not unconscious. You could say that on the human level, like the human is unconscious of its freedom, or the human is unconscious of its dynamics. But when I use the word consciousness, I mean, you're not in deep sleep. There is consciousness of all things here. Like there is an awakeness. Like this is known. What's happening is known. And that's not something you're doing. You're not like sitting there like typing on your typewriter, being like, be conscious of life now. Boom! Go, send. Because who would be conscious of that? The consciousness is your birthright. Like when you wake up in the morning, you're not like, excuse me, God, can I just have a bit of consciousness? The consciousness is there, and then the person comes in and is like, hello, world. Jimmy is in the house. The consciousness is. And the same with that sense of being, that sense of I am. Like you never asked to be, for this to be. You're never like, can this be? Can this be? God, can you just make this happen? It's happening. That sense of isness, that sense of being alive. Like that's always in every experience, that sense of being alive and this empty looking. That there is a consciousness of everything, and there is this sense of being. And when I say being, I mean, like, if you were walloped over the head and forgot everything about yourself and who you were, you'd still have a sense of being alive, and you'd have still this empty looking, even if you couldn't remember who you were. Or say if you got like really stoned or really drunk, there's still the empty looking and that aliveness. It's inherent in all experiences. It's there in deep sleep as well. It's just in deep sleep there is no objects to be conscious of, so therefore nothing happens. You could also say there is no deep sleep because everything disappears, so it's just sleep and then awake again. Like it's falling to sleep and then awake again. And this is your absolute freedom. This is the freedom. The person doesn't become free though. The person is always bound to cause and effect. So Lisa is bound to her personality. Lisa can't be different from what she is. She can evolve slowly through time, like a rock changes its shape by the sea. Like pushing against it and changing it. But it's not about that. The character changes through this awakening, this realization, and relaxes, but it's always going to have its tendencies. And that's really hard for the mind to comprehend, because firstly the mind often is judging itself and doesn't want to be itself, or wants to be a perfect person. So it thinks, okay, enlightenment's going to be the perfect person. Here we come world, I'm going to make it, I'm going to be perfect. So often the person wants to be that. And it's also like, if you believe that you're going to one day become enlightened and be a perfect person, it's also like an impossible task. So you're also like setting yourself up for failure. It's like imagining making the most perfect piece of art. You'd never complete it because you can't possibly do that, because everything's always evolving and there is no such thing as perfection. It's an ever-changing like line. The reason that I say this is because one of the mistakes of you, and one thing that you're always seeking for, is waiting to become perfect. And yet the whole time there is that consciousness, and that is that sense of being. And the person does what it does. It's actually what I'm trying to do is relax that character, relax that illusory person that's always telling itself it has to perform in a certain way in order to be loved. Isn't that the dynamic you always played with your parents? Yes? What would you like me to be? You want me to be good? You want me to be blonde? You want me to be cute? Okay, here it comes. And then there's the other side that's like, there's the shadow side that's like, I want to be bad. But I got to be good for the parents. And it's also this relaxing, this judgment that the mind has about other people, what other people have to be to you, what you have to be for them. Like you could go back to, so one of my teachers was Roger Castillo and Ramesh Balsekar, and their favorite teaching, if you haven't listened to them, is that the collapse of doership creates the end of blame, guilt, shame, pride, expectation. And I don't feel like it's the end. Like in me, there can be these dynamics that arise, and I don't know if I want them to end, but they do diminish a lot. Like there's not really, you're getting stuck in them. It depends how you define them all. Like, but I certainly get a sense of blame if somebody's inappropriate, not like hours and hours of mental agony, but the sense that that's inappropriate what you did. And guilt if I've been inappropriate to someone. But they do certainly relax, because who is the doer? Like this idea that you have done life, that you're controlling your life. There is no one controlling life. Life is a happening. Life is appearing. So everything you do is in absolute innocence, which is so beautiful. It also means, though, that anything that anyone else does is an absolute innocence. So you might be like, oh yes, I can forgive myself. I am innocent, but you are not. Which isn't the case. The other person is just as innocent. We're like the birds singing, the dogs barking, the cheetahs chasing their kill, the sun glowing, the wind blowing. And there is nobody that is in control of their actions. There is actions appearing from this consciousness, from this infinite mystery of what we are. It appears out of nowhere, and that's your experience right now. It's amazing how the mind hypnotizes you into thinking there is somebody in which action is appearing from. But your experience is that action appears from this moment. It doesn't appear from the past. We can put it into patterns and we can say, okay, I acted like that because you treated me badly in that moment, but that's just the pattern. The actual experience in the moment, so that's the pattern that we can think about. The experience in the moment is that your actions arise from nothing. Your actions arise from no place. This world arises from no place. It's phenomenal. Everything's arising from nothing, from no place. Or you could say every place. That's your actual experience. Your experience isn't that it arises from the past. That's the hypnosis of the mind. This is where you get so stuck in time, in past and future, and past and future. Life is arising now. Your action arising now, and your action's actually innocent. We can be reconditioned. So if I'm told, like, by supporting a certain product, I'm hurting animals in Ethiopia, then that new conditioning can come into the body-mind, and then maybe the next time that product won't be bought. But it's down to life as to whether that really happens. So we can recondition these bodies, just like it seems like the ocean is carving and molding the stones on the seashore. So that's how it seems in the apparent story, but in actuality, that's only ever happening now. Now. That's our experience. The story isn't the reality. The story is something the humans made up to try and make sense of their environment and manipulate it for survival. And then we're like, that is the nature of reality. Cause and effect is the nature of reality. And yet science can't really pin that onto the greater scheme of things, because things don't really make sense. Like, for an example, this I've forgotten the name of it. This new thing, I think it's quantum physics or physics, has discovered where two particles interact together. This is just mind-blowing. When two particles interact together, they are forever connected and affect the behavior of one another. I mean, that is mind-blowing. So two particles interact, no matter how far away they get from each other in this universe, the movement of this particle will always affect the movement of this one, and the movement of this one will always affect that one, which is mind-blowing. Think of all the different particles that body has interacted with in this life. And then as humans, we're like, life is happening by cause and effect. It's way more complex. I can't even describe to you that science because I'm not a scientist, but you can look it up on the internet, except I've forgotten the name of it. Someone can tell me in Skype. And then you've got quantum physics, which suggests that the particles, something along the lines of the particles only make form when they are observed, so the particles are affected by the observer. So they could be anything, and they only become what they are when observed. I can't again explain that to you properly, but again, what I'm trying to hint at is that life is not what it seems. The stories in which we tell ourselves are very limited and based on storytelling. They're based on fiction. Like we understand that novels are fiction, but we don't seem to understand that our whole society is fiction. Money is fiction. Society is fiction. Trading is fiction. It's all stories that we're using in order to relate to each other, but they're not actually inherently true. Death is fiction. Birth is fiction. Life is fiction. Money is fiction. Tax office is fiction. Relationships are fiction. They're not inherently true. Mother is fiction. Father is fiction. Child is fiction. It's what we tell each other. If I tried to communicate to Khaleesi about the tax office, she's like, "Where's the chicken? Where's the chicken?" And I'm trying to tell her, this is how the world works, this is the way it is. And the reason, and it still exists, even if she gets it or she doesn't. Or it doesn't really exist, but it's what I'm trying to say is that it's not real for her, but yet it seemingly is real for us in our society. And just because we think, oh, well, we're the best animals in the universe, we can do the most complex thing, we're the most intelligent, that our way is right. Whereas Khaleesi, it's like, boo, boo, boo. Especially the economy one. Economy is a really weird story, which I really can't quite fully grasp. The question that always blows my mind is I have to see if I can remember what the question is that blows my mind is. Yeah, I did ask someone this the other day and they gave me quite a satisfactory answer, but it still blows my mind thinking about it. So say if the whole economy crashes like it does now, and the stock market loses that 20% or 30%, whatever it is, and all these things, and loads of people go bankrupt. Where does all their money go? In my mind, I imagine then, okay, so other people become rich from that, but it's not. The money just disappears. Everybody becomes poorer. It's really crazy, the idea of money. Somebody gave me a good explanation of it the other day, but again, I'm still there's still holes in it when I imagine. It doesn't logically make sense, money. So basically, you are that which is always here. You're not a story. You're not found in a story. Life isn't coming from a story. Life is coming from what's always present here. This moment, which is always here. This moment is always here. Consciousness is always here. This sense of being is always here. Stories come and go. Stories are proven and disproven, are always changing, dependent on our society, dependent who you're around, dependent on the way you view the world. They're not a fixed reality. And the idea that your life is coming from the past is whoop, whoop, whoop. A more like advanced society would look at us and laugh at our stupidity for thinking that. Like, how can you be coming from the past? You're here. You're always here. You're never, ever coming from the past. You're always right here. And there's always this knowing of what's happening. And this knowing is so empty and free and never hurt by anything. It accepts everything. It's like total love. It's never rejecting anything. Consciousness is never like, excuse me, I don't like that, go away. It is always accepting and loving and holding. The same with beingness. It's never rejecting itself. The person is accepting and rejecting. And when you believe that's who you are, then you're lost in this pendulum of pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain, pleasure and pain. Like lost, trying to hold on to that which is pleasurable and get away from that which is painful. Pleasure and pain are, nice, but it's not the be-all and the end-all. The be-all and end-all is this moment, is what's happening. It's so miraculous and exciting and free, and it's clear, it's clean. It doesn't blame, it doesn't reject, it doesn't hold on to anything. And yet it is all things. It's not bound inside of this body. It's explosive. It's everywhere. It is the wall. It is the curtain. It is the cups behind me, the cooker, the me. It's everything. It makes up everything. I go do, push my knuckle, shake the tree. I go do, la 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 la. And when you're totally zoomed in on the person, you're totally bound by what that person believes and thinks and feels. So if you're insecure, that's who you are. If you're better than, that's who you are. If you're victim, that's who you are. Whereas your essence is infinite possibility. Your essence is everything. Your essence isn't contained and limited. And this is what most of humanity have forgotten, and therefore they live in a suffering world where they can't hold on to their pleasure. They can't hold on to that which they believe makes them free. They can't hold on to their lover or their kids or their home or their money or their environment or their life. They can't hold on to it. It comes and goes. Everything comes and goes. And while you believe you are one of those things that come and go, you're destined to suffer. What else is here? What's bigger than this you? That is God. That is what all the religions are always banging on about. Except they put it in some very elusive ways sometimes, because it's not easy to talk about. And often politics gets involved. They begin to turn it into hunting and gathering and survival and control. Okay, now I shall go into questions. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to ask a question through Skype. My Skype address is Lisa Cairns 12. If you want to call in, please make sure that you write to me first and say, I would like to call in. Okay, the first question is from Alango. Hello, Alango. Are you working, Alango, or are you on holiday? He's a doctor, but doctor of the, lungs. Oh yes, so I'm sure you are working with your face mask. What is my advice for Corona? My advice for Corona. Okay, what does the heart say? In the flow of things, so in life, the best attitude that you can have is seeing everything as a possibility to expand and to grow. Our nature in life, of all things, is to expand and grow because they're not limited. Like the nature of life is reflecting back the bigger picture, and it's that we can endlessly grow and expand. And when you line up with that mentality, and it lines up with your essence, with your true essence, then this makes for a happier, more relaxed, more free person because it's more in line with your true nature rather than this is bad, this is going to destroy me, this is going to destroy society, or we can think about these different things. Like I have no idea how life is going to look after this, but it's always knowing deeply that everything is an opportunity to expand, no matter what that looks like. Even if that looks like a complete crash of the economy or like lots of death. This is the best attitude you can have on the human level. Everything is an opportunity to expand. And life doesn't make mistakes. It's just the humans like, yeah, but I wanted it to be a different way. Because the human thinks it knows better than life. Thank you, Elango. Hi, Michael. It's good now. Oh. Okay. Hello. Divesh. Hello. Yeah, there was somebody that asked me a question. Tim. Okay. Thanks, Lisa. Best wishes in these times. Answer whichever one you have time, feel free, and most relevant. Thank you. Having felt that what I am is much deeper than a body or a personality, essentially something purely intangible, nothing, I realize I don't feel the everything component of myself, as in being everything and everyone. Any ideas on how I can get to this realization? Well, your mistake is that maybe, I don't know, I'm not spoken to you in person, but I assume that your mistake is the belief that you had this realization of nothing, that you get the nothingness, whereas who gets the nothingness? Like, who sees that? Like, if you think that you get it, then there's you in relationship with that understanding or that getting or that seeing. There's still something that's separate from it. So to know the nothingness, you by default know the everything, but it doesn't belong to someone. Like, it doesn't belong to you. Like, who? Who? And then this nothingness is everywhere, and all things are this nothingness. It's the same with consciousness. So often in the process of waking up, the person thinks that it gets it. It sees consciousness. I see that's who I am. And then it puts its attention in consciousness, or puts its attention in I am. And that's super relaxing for the person, but that cannot be it, because who gets it? It's understood when that person moves out of the way, and it's known beyond you, not as not as an idea, not as a concept, not as something you've got, but as itself. And it's kind of like an energetic shift, but not an energetic shift from someone. What? It's impossible. I feel confused in regards to the component of the no self versus the true self. If there is truly, this light's very bright, let me turn it down. It gets brighter as the evening gets on. I feel confused in regards to the component of no self versus the true self. If there is truly no self whatsoever, is it simply beingness floating in empty space? And that's what my everyday life has been for as long as I can remember, something occurring but not occurring to anyone. Yeah, but it's located. So if you imagine a dream at night, like if you didn't have a location in which the dream was looked at through, so if you had a dream that you're walking along a beach, the moon was shining and the stars were glittering, and you didn't have a location that you were looking from, how would you see it? And if you were filming a film, but you didn't have a location in which the camera was filming from, like how would it be seen? Like the way that this dream works is there has to be a location, an object in which this life is looked at through. Otherwise, there's just everything, and then there wouldn't be any looking. So consciousness looks through the body-mind, so it does have a location. In death, when the body dies, like consciousness goes back to everything, but then there's no more dream. More than likely the dream appears again and it starts again, but if consciousness wasn't looking through an object, then it would be death. What happens in the waking up is this realization that you are consciousness and consciousness is everywhere, and there's an energetic shift from being limited to not being limited, but it's still looking through this body. So you could say there is still some identification with the body and the character. Like I still feel like there's some identification with Lisa. If there wasn't, then there wouldn't be the possibility of functioning. Some teachers teach that they get to the stage where there's absolutely no identification with the body, mind, the character. And I don't know what they're talking about, because it doesn't seem possible while there's still life appearing. Whether it's because I don't understand them, and I'm not understanding what they're trying to communicate intellectually, or that they're more advanced and it's something that I've not experienced, or that they're just communicating in a bit of a not very intellectually clear way. And maybe I used to say that in the beginning because it's not like you have this energetic awakening and then there's a manual, because it doesn't make sense in the intellect. So in the beginning, maybe I would say there's absolutely no identification left. And I can also see how that made sense intellectually kind of at the time, but it's not like you get a manual of how to teach this correctly, because it doesn't make freaking sense. When I had this big awakening in Bali in 2011, like my mind just went a bit crazy for a while. Like it just doesn't make sense as to what teachers say. Like none of the teachings fully make sense. And I remember my mind being like, so which one is right? And then I was like, oh, this is all bullshit. Like the mind just trying to find something to think about. What are your thoughts on self-inquiry practice? I've been doing this practice each day, but unsure where the focus needs to go. One of the teachers I listen to explains to put one's awareness onto awareness itself until enlightenment occurs. Is this awareness that is being focused on simply the being that is occurring in the present moment, e.g. awareness of sights and sounds? It's still a divided place when you're doing the practice of putting awareness on awareness or putting awareness on I am. That's the personal awareness putting its attention on this present moment or on beingness, and there's still something that's conscious of that. So you can see it's a person doing it. what that practice is doing is it's relaxing that sense of self. It's calming that sense of self down. It's stopping the sense of self like going off into daydream land, like in lots and lots of stories, which is really helpful for the person to become more relaxed on the human level. And also what it does, I think, I can't guarantee these things because, as I say, waking up doesn't come with a manual where I can be like, let me just look at my manual down here of waking up. 266. Oh yes. It doesn't come with that. So what I assume happens is that when the person becomes more calm, there's more of a sense of this mystery. Like if you're deeply suffering and deeply contracted, then how can you hear that life is free, that life is magical, and that this is freedom? Like there is no room for resonance. There's no ability to resonate with that the life is small and contracted and suffering and bad or good or whatever it is. Like, so if you imagine somebody that's not into this subject and they're just totally identified with life, like you sort of talk to them about this subject and they would maybe get angry or defensive, or it wouldn't even sound like anything to them. Could you talk about your own initial awakening to what you were, going from identification with a human to your true nature? Yes, I can, but just as something for you, Tim, to just reflect on is to ask yourself and to look is that with these questions, where are these questions coming from in my body? Like what is it that I'm trying to get here? But just so you're conscious of what it is that you're trying to get with these questions, because you always get what you want. So just being conscious of what you want. But the thing is, you always get what you want, but often you don't know what you're wanting. And who is it that produces the wants? No one. So wanting just appears, and then there is a getting of that wanting. And the person always is like, no, that's not the way it works, Lisa. I don't want everyone to have coronavirus. But just think about like what society focuses on so much is fear. And it does focus on these things. If you look at films, a lot of TV shows, a lot of them is about an apocalypse or a catastrophe happening, and people are fascinated by this. And there is this like fear in people of society. And when you really examine that thought process, is even though you're saying you don't want it, like I don't want this to happen, I don't want it to happen, in a way your constant obsession with it is bringing it towards you. You're giving it energy. Like the don't want is kind of like bringing it, it's kind of becoming a want. So it's like, so it's not like you can say that you want it like overtly. It's like unconsciously you're calling it towards you. You're putting your focus on it, or society is putting its focus on it. If you look at the news, like it's bringing it towards itself. And then what's really interesting is when you ask someone whether they want to give up their fear. So do you want to give up your fear of society? They often don't want to give it up because they're attached to that fear. So in a way, they want that fear. It's really interesting. I noticed that with, don't want to get too personal about my story, even though I'm most probably so personal in the past, but I noticed that with like some issues that I had with men, is that when like pain was coming up or difficult stories was coming up with men, there's like a part of me that doesn't want or didn't want, and maybe still doesn't want to fully give up that story, like because it believes it's true. So for example, like maybe there's a part of me that thinks that exposing yourself on the internet can have a dangerous side to it. So that is a thought process that's not actually true, but I think there is a part of me that thinks that and can sometimes be a little bit afraid of exposing myself too much on the internet, like, because as a female, like, I'm a bit older now, but when I started talking I was like 30, I think. Yeah, and it attracted some male energy that could be sometimes very violent. Like, I know it sounds really abstract to you guys that I say that, because you maybe haven't exposed yourself on the internet, but I think it's quite common that when women, like younger women, expose themselves on the internet, they can receive a lot of violence from a particular male personality, and that's all thought processes, though. So even though I say that can happen, it's thought processes, and I actually believe the solution is changing my thought process in it. I don't mean being stupid and like doing really stupid things on the internet, but I believe the solution is my thought process. And there is a part of me that when I think about it too much, there is fear that arises in my body, and I'm not ready fully yet to give up that idea that exposing yourself on the internet can be dangerous. And I can feel it. I don't want to give up that idea. So in a way, I want to hold that idea to me, so I'm attracting this energy. Like, it's so much better than when I first started. Like, I had to really become conscious of like women's ideas towards men, and what it is to be a woman, and what it is to be a woman that's like using her intellect in a way, and talking about philosophical things. Like, if I was acting more traditionally female, then there would be a different response. And I really believe that my safety on the internet and my the best way of handling things is my attitude towards it, not actually putting in certain blocks or certain safety nets, even though I do. Like, I try not to, I have secure internet security on my computer. I don't download things from people that send me things, like, etc. I don't do all these types of things, but yeah. And that's like quite a deep psychology that a lot of people won't face, because they won't expose themselves on the internet, and they won't be doing what I've done. But you can have it in all areas of life. So maybe with money, like that you believe money is evil, and therefore you're pushing money away from you. And you don't want to give up that story that you believe it's evil, you believe society's corrupt, and so therefore you push it away from you. And then that's what society and money comes from for you, and there's this energy, and it's not even you doing it, that's what appears inside the dream. So there's an energy that pushes it away. It's totally impersonal, and yet it's seemingly personal because it's the human doing it. And you can change things, but again, it's not you changing it. So things can evolve over time. You can change your attitudes, but it's not you doing it. But by investigating it and studying it, it changes. But again, that investigation and study isn't yours. So Lisa, transforming with this relationship over the internet over the last 10 years, isn't my doing, it's life's doing. It had a funny effect on me, a little bit of an energetic funny effect on me, exposing myself about the internet and the men. I think a little bit of fear came up thinking about it, so that the body feels a little like a... And it's not fear, it's also like like talking about it, like not wanting to give other people the energy of that or something. Just give myself a moment to let that energy pass through. Okay, next question. There's a lot, I think. See, so what just happened to me about the fear and the men. I'm not enlightened on the human level. So a lot of people get the idea that on the human level that you become totally unresponsive and don't have any conditions left. I still have conditions left inside my body. And I'm sure that I sometimes have old seeking patterns that arise of ways to deal with it, like pushing something away, or avoiding something. And these are patterns inside the body. Yes. Okay. And I don't know if that ever ends. Like I can see that knowledge and habits and conditions are infinite. Like we could change infinitely the way we are as humans. Like I'm sure if we really unconditioned ourselves on the human level, or reconditioned ourselves on the human level, that we could conquer death, that we could conquer having to eat or breathe or all these types of things, that we could walk through walls or go back in time. We can't do that. But I think that anything is possible. Life is magic, not logic. Okay. Oh, I didn't finish that. Tim had more questions. Where are you, Tim? Could you talk about your initial awakening? I don't really remember when my initial awakening was. I have a terrible memory. It could have been in my teens, or it could have just been that my whole life I had a predisposition towards this subject. Because as far back as 4, I remember I had severe learning difficulties, and I just had this sense I didn't really speak or couldn't write my name. And I remember at 3 or 4, I remember having this choice that if I didn't become Lisa, I wouldn't be able to be part of the human world. And I remember that really clearly, that I had to become Lisa in order to be part of the human world. I think a lot of kids have this, they just can't interpret it. And I remember having such a connection to Source as a child, like feeling so much wonder and expansiveness and connection to everything. I couldn't interpret that. And then in my teenage years, I used to do these tantric meditation practices without even knowing it. It just was really pleasurable to listen to music and imagine having boyfriends or girlfriends or people loving me. and just like getting into this really expansive place. And then like coming in contact with Buddhism when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and then like art, even in my teenage years, connecting with art and just having expansiveness. And then when I was 25, I had a car crash, and there was some energetic shift that happened through the shock of it. I nearly got squashed by a lorry and sent spinning around the motorway, we call it in England, highway in America. And then just being absolutely blissed out. And then having many, like being arm as ashram, and just waking up and being like, in the morning, and that happening on and off and not having any reference to it, so never thinking that was connected to spirituality, like just becoming so empty. And then when I was 30, I broke up with my boyfriend Roger Castillo, who's a teacher, and I'd lived with him for 3 years in the Australian bush. And we did such an intense time, and I'd done so much psychology with him and talking about non-duality and no-doership. And it had been like being on a 3-year retreat. We lived in the bush and didn't really have any friends there. I'm originally from England. And then we had 2 dogs, and when we broke up, my life suddenly completely changed overnight. And there was just such a deep sense that at the same time it hadn't changed, like I am and consciousness was everywhere, like nothing had really left. And there'd be these deep senses of loneliness, when you break up with your partner, and then this other sense that I never left him, he never left me, I was always with him, because who he truly was I am and consciousness. Same with my dogs and my home. And then this like really massive energetic shift happened when I was sitting in a cafe in Bali eating banana fritters. And it kind of pulsed like really intensely, where I totally disidentified at moments from the body. I couldn't even function. It was just like love and vibration and expansiveness, and there was no center. And that sort of pulsed in and out, and then sort of came to a middle way where I could still function and sort of be the character, but also this connection to source. And that's never really shifted back, and it transformed my personality structure. It made me way more balanced. I think I maybe was a particular quite unbalanced person, but maybe not. Maybe humans are quite unbalanced and I just can't see it now. I can't really remember. And it sort of balanced me out. I still have neurosis, like I just talked about with the fear of the men, but it's a lot easier, my neurosis, and my personality is a lot nicer, but I still do stupid things sometimes and mean things sometimes, and can be a silly Billy, can still argue, get annoyed, get grumpy, but there's something else that's here that's so magical. Yeah, I've heard many too. So the last bit of the question: why do you think enlightenment brings more peace, quality of life, being that it attains? Because you're not. There's a knowing of reality. Like when you're solely identified with a person, you're lost in a dream that's not true, and that's like being totally gaslighted. Like it's always changing. You can't find home, and so waking up, you have this connection to source, and you know what's real, even though there is a part of you that's still connected to being human as well, and having a human experience. There's something that knows truth or reality. I've heard many teachers talk about the fact that my true nature has existed long before I was born, and are the past things I remember simply a result of the awareness of human memory? Yeah. When your memory dies, they will die, unless you've told them to other people, and then they will live on in other people. Yeah, you as a memory, you as an idea that comes with complex thinking. It's not reality, not reality, And that's where the suffering comes, this identification with it and belief that that is solely who you are. That's an appearance in who you are. Who you are, who you truly are, that which is always here, is this empty looking and this sense of beingness. Oh, Felice is not here. Okay, thanks, Tim. How should I deal with envy? I don't like to feel insecure and needy, etc. And this light in my eyes. These sore eyes. Sore eyes. How should you deal with envy? So this is then, this is an emotion that happens on the human level. The emotion, so it's a response, like it's in motion. So it's a response to stimuli that's outside. And that's happening on the chakra level. So we have these chakras inside our body. And envy tends to be related to the heart and the solar plexus. And basically, if you want to transform that envy, then you have to transform the chakra. You have to become conscious of what chakra it's in, why you're feeling the envy, what negative feeling it's giving you. So underneath envy, there's a deeper feeling. So it's fear of survival, fear that you'll be abandoned, that you'll be left, fear that you're not good enough. So you have to understand why it's appearing. And then when the envy's happening, transforming that chakra into the positive. So it's being honest with it, getting to know it, and then transforming it into the positive, I am good enough, I am loved, I am capable. Yeah. Thank you for your question. I am not even going to make it through all these questions. Michael, there is such a horrible feeling of discomfort in the body for a long time. I've tried everything to stop it, to understand it, to listen to it, to love it. Nothing works. What can I do? Is it possible that being married with the wrong person or doing the wrong job, which doesn't make me happy, prevents the waking up? No. No. More than likely, if that discomfort in the body dropped, you would find your connection to the work and to the person. After I had the shift, I worked in a vegan restaurant. I've been vegan on and off most of my life. I'm a wannabe vegan. And I do it most of the time, but sometimes I have little breaks. But I'm going to really ask life to try to not eat dairy. It's quite incredibly cruel, and but I do break. And cheese sometimes. It's incredibly tasty, and the greed overtakes. What was I saying that for? Did I just go loopy? Oh yeah, I used to work in a vegan cafe. I couldn't believe why you'd ask that question. I'm going on about veganism. And when I first started working there, predominantly what the owner gave me to do was to clean the pots, and because it's like an eco restaurant, the pots didn't have any of this non-stick lining or anything, and the way that you cleaned it was just with a bristle pad and scrubbing really hard, and it was heaven. It was so heavenly, like there was nothing, like I just was so into it, like there was just a surrender happening. Obviously throughout my day-to-day experience, there's things that I prefer to not do, like, so I don't really like cleaning so much or vacuuming. It's not my preference. But if that were my job, and if that's what life asked me to do, if you surrender into the moment of it, it just becomes blissful. The movement, the sounds, the experience of it. So I wouldn't get these assumptions, the wrong person or the wrong job. It's more than likely that because you're uncomfortable, you just project that all onto things that are around you. But also there's the other part where if you feel really uncomfortable, then you often attract things that validate your discomfort in a way. So you attract things that constantly validate your limitation. Isn't that funny? So sometimes these things dropping away have a profound effect on you because you constructed them because of limitation. But I wouldn't focus on that too much, because when you're contracted, it's the wrong time to act. When you're feeling contracted, you want to act when you feel expansive and open, not when you feel contracted and in pain. I would ask you, Michael, I'm sorry, I always struggle between Michael and Michelle, so if it's Michelle, I apologize, but I think it's Michael. I would ask yourself, Michael, is this story really true? Or is this the solar plexus playing you up and you're just believing it? Like, that's such a solar plexus response. Like, all my life I've been trying so hard to get rid of it. I remember with Roger, I was doing the gardening with him, and I just remember this time saying to him, but you don't understand, Roger. You've had such an easy life. My life has been full of suffering, and I've had so many problems, and it's gone on for so long. It's not so easy for me, and like, it's been so terrible, and I can't transform things like you can. And I remember him just saying, that's a story though, Lisa, that's not true. You don't always feel like that. And I was like, yes, I do. And I got so angry at him and stormed off. And then later, that feeling disappeared. And then I was like, oh yeah, I don't always feel this. It comes with the suffering mind. Like, what it does is it makes the suffering like way worse. It's like sticking a dagger in that, boom, 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 boom. And it's from the solar plexus chakra, and it's this sense that it's hopeless, I can't do it, life is pointless, it never works out for me, I'm stuck. It's depression, anger, frustration. And so it's just seeing that and then moving it into the positive, which is sense of everything works out, that you can do it, that things do change, that there's infinite possibility. Action. The solar plexus, it's action. But then knowing at the same time that that doesn't belong to anyone. That there is no one that's at the source of that. There's nobody at the source, drinking the source, like drinking the mayonnaise, or the salad cream, or the Thousand Island dressing. Yes. Okay, so we begin to come to the end of the session, and there's so many people that have written, so I'm just going to go through, and I'm not going to answer your question, but I'm just going to say hello, because it's coming to the end. Hi Fane. Hi Nick. Hi Derek. Nick, I'm sorry, I just have to say this. Nick, you know, I was calling myself a Wally. I spelt it W-A-L-L-Y, which meant an inept or silly person, but Wally spelled L-O, which is also another way, is East London dialect, a pickled cucumber or olive, which is also funny. Oh, quantum entanglement, that was the science I was trying to tell you about. Hi, Derek. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Derek. Hi, Carol. Hi, Julio. Hi, Isabel. Hi, Joss. Hey, AR. Hi, Kim. Hi, Asia. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Monique. Hi, Jaya. Yeah, so I'm sorry I didn't get to answer everybody's question. I will be streaming again on Sunday at 6 p.m. French time, so next Sunday. I know that there is lots of talks going on the internet at the moment. Hi, Oleg. So, I'm sure there's also lots of other teachers that you can ask these questions to too, as well. Okay, my lovelies. Have a beautiful evening. Enjoy your isolation. Remember, everything is there to help us expand. Namaste.